Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to City Sewers. Today I'm going to talk about this heat wave that we're getting. Now, there's a reason that Miss Guinevere is not on the shelf, and that is heat. So we've been getting temperatures over 100 degrees for the past several days, and rabbits, as many people know, are not set up for heat. They are more designed for cold weather, and they struggle in the heat. So Guinevere really struggled with the heat, but before I get into the whole story of what happened with her, I want to kind of give you a checkup on the other two rabbits that are still out here. Here's Arthur. He's eating his breakfast. Now he is probably at this point heat sterile, which means that when rabbits get too warm, the bucks will actually go sterile. The heat will actually kill the sperm that they have. So I would imagine that by now he is definitely heat sterile. But he is otherwise doing really well. He's eating, he's drinking. It's still the morning right now, so it's nice and cool, but I do have a crock that's actually up top there. It's covered in cats, but he doesn't care. I fill the crock with ice water, and they have water that they can lap up, which is they can consume more in a sitting than they can from the bottle. And apart from his initial reaction of, oh, what is this, can I throw it? He's been doing really well drinking out of a crock. Now, Nimue, I have actually been surprised. She is, of course, a very dark rabbit, so she's a little hard to see maybe in the video. But she has been doing actually really remarkably well with the heat. I thought that I would be dealing with more issues with her because of her dark color, but she's actually been fairly tolerant of the hot weather. So she's been managing just fine. She knows to stretch out on her marble tile, and we get frozen soda bottles in here, and she stretches out along the whole length of that. So on top of the cooling methods that I have implemented inside of their cages, I also have a fan out here, an oscillating fan. It can't blow really hard on them individually, so it's just going back and forth with a gentle breeze blowing on each of them. And that really helps just getting the air moving around them, because when it's 100 degrees and the air is really still, it's a lot harder than when there's a breeze and it's stirring the air. I don't know if you know this, but it's really difficult to film when you guys are chewing on my legs. They say, please just pay attention to us. Little brats, aren't ya? And then there's Gilbert, who's like talking to a chicken. What are you doing? Shirley. Right now, I do have another update about little Gilbert, but we'll get to him after I finish talking about the rabbits. So the other day we had some temperatures that were reaching well into the hundreds. It was like 109 that day, and Guinevere was really struggling just at barely 100 degrees. And I just decided that it was not going to be safe for me to let her stay out there and have it get any hotter. She had cold water in a crock, she had an ice bottle, she had all the things that I could do while she was outside, all the support I could give her out there, and it just wasn't working. And I think a large part of that is because she is heavily pregnant, which when I bred her, I was planning on dealing with 90-degree temperatures because that's the norm for around this time of year. But having a heat wave come through was really the worst possible timing. Guinevere was really struggling in that heat. She was drooling all over herself. She was breathing really hard. And I had to make the decision to pull her and put her in the house because it was like, she could die from this. I don't want to lose my rabbit because I decided to push the envelope and leave her outside in the heat as long as possible before doing something. I decided to act now and know that she'll be okay rather than wait and not know. So what I did was I moved her into the garage, which, while not all the way cool, it was still like about 90 degrees in the garage, but I wanted to gradually move her into cooler temperatures rather than shock her body by bringing her from 100 degrees to 75 degrees. So I moved her into the garage with a fan and I put a baking sheet with ice water in it, kind of under her cage, had the cage propped up, and just getting that cool air circulating in there. She very quickly started to do much better, and I ended up eventually propping open the door from inside the house with a fan, blowing that cool air into the garage in her direction. And from there, we had a discussion about what to do long term, because she was on top of the freezer in the garage, which makes it really difficult when I need to make dinner and get food out of said freezer. So we decided to move her into the kids' bathroom. So I'll bring you guys in to take a look at her, see that she's doing all right, but the kids' light has a fan that automatically comes on, so it's a little noisy in there. But I think that just having that constant white noise, she's okay. She doesn't seem stressed. And today is technically her due date. She's 31 days today, and no babies yet, but she could go a little late. It's not uncommon. She's doing all right. I just put this hay in here earlier to see if she wanted to use it to kind of beef up her nest at all. I mean, she's got a nice little nest in there. She hasn't pulled any hair yet, but it's pretty common for first-time does to not pull hair until the very last possible minute. So, but she's doing much better in here. So Guinevere is doing significantly better. Just being in the house in temperature controlled or in climate controlled conditions, and we're planning on just leaving her in the bathroom until after this heat wave passes, which is most likely going to be well after she kindles as well. So even after this weekend, we're supposed to have more than 100-degree temperatures even next weekend, so we have to figure out what we're going to do. It's actually really difficult to move that cage back and forth because it doesn't fit through a doorway. It has to be turned on its side. So that makes it all just a little bit more challenging, because it's like if we're moving her, we can't move her again for a while because we don't want to stress her out too much. So, but I also can't have her living for 6 weeks in a bathroom. So I'm not super sure what I'm gonna do yet, but it'll all work out, hoping that she kindles all right and hoping that she's a good solid mom. Now the goats are doing remarkably well in the heat. They are, I mean, they're Nigerian dwarfs. Nigeria is in Africa, which is, it gets hot. So they actually can tolerate heat pretty well. So we have not had any issues with the heat for the goats. That being said, we discovered a, not so much an issue as just a slight complication with Mr. Gilbert. Actually, you know what? I'll go get him while we talk about this. Alright, there we go, cutie boy. Gilbert is our only buckling in Jane's litter this year. He's always been a little bit odd. Even when he was born, I kind of had to like check twice to make sure that he was a boy because his testicles are so small. I know. And the other day, I mean, I'm not usually looking that close at a goat's scrotum, just to be honest. The other day, I happened to just kind of notice that they didn't quite look normal, and so I did pick him up and more closely inspect his business area, and he's actually what's called a cryptorchid, which means that he only has one descended testicle. And a cryptorchid can have either one or both testicles where they don't drop. And so he has only one that is down, but the other one, it's much smaller. It is still outside the abdominal wall, so he may not need surgery to remove it. But it is small and it is more tucked up, I guess you would say. It does not affect his health at all, but it does have to be removed if he is ever going to be a pet wether, because that one little guy hanging on in there will still produce enough testosterone to make him really stinky, really bucky, and just kind of make him not great as a pet, because you don't want a smelly, stinky buck who wants to go be with all the girls if you're going for a pet. And there's some debate on the heritability of cryptorchidism, and basically I have decided that I still want him castrated because he should never be used as a breeding buck, because he may throw that trait into his own offspring. So he will be castrated. My goat mentor said that, you know, when he's old enough, in a couple of weeks, we'll assess and see if that little bugger can be banded. And if not, then we will call the vet and we'll have to do a more invasive procedure to get it out. And we can kind of make decisions from there. But he's still a very sweet little boy, and he's a sneaky little boy. I have busted him nursing off of Betsy as well as Jane, which is insane because Betsy has never taken a shine to any of Jane's babies ever before, but she is pretty buddy-buddy here with Gilbert, and I have busted her nursing him. So he has got quite a little fat belly because he's getting milk from 2 moms, basically. Betsy doesn't nurse him full-time. I have seen her, you know, refuse to let him nurse, but I have gone to milk her in the evenings and found her drained. And it's like, well, so she's a bit promiscuous with her milk. She's literally giving away the milk for free. So, but yeah, this little guy, he's adorable little chocolate buck. But he'll still be castrated on schedule. We just don't know exactly the method yet because of his slight complication. It doesn't affect his health at all. He's totally healthy, bouncing baby boy. He's just a little funny in the business end. So that's kind of the heat wave status as it pertains to the animals. Now, as it pertains to the garden, it's loving the heat. So I am not at all worried about the garden. We are making sure that it gets plenty of water, but otherwise it is doing its thing, and it is pumping out growth and pumping out fruit. And so I am not worried about the garden. I do need to do some management stuff out here, but it's been so hot. So I need to come out here like in the early morning. And unfortunately today is not that day because I had to go to a t-ball game. But yeah, the garden is not struggling in 100+ degree weather because we have an automated water system. So it comes on before the sun comes out in the morning, so it gets water before the heat, and it also gets water late in the evening after the heat. And it's been thriving. It's been doing really well. Actually, come check out the melons. They've gotten substantially bigger since the last time I showed you. Look at that. That's like less than a week, and it's so much bigger already. Covered in fruit. You can see the foliage is really starting to fill in. Like, it loves the heat and the intense sun. Now, there is a little bit of sun damage going on in the cucumbers, but cucumbers actually do really well in heat. And there's some young fruits in there. I don't know if anything's ready to pick yet. Nothing ready to harvest yet, but I mean, it's still producing fruits. So I don't think it's suffering. Alright, now after a little bit of bushwhacking out there in the garden, I got this. It was a conjoined twin where one of them just flat didn't get pollinated. And it's just this curvy little crazy thing. The stem like goes way down the side of it. It's really interesting. I don't know what's going on with that squash. But I also got my very first rotunda eggplant. It's quite small, but the plant is covered in a bunch more that are coloring up, so I'm pretty sure that this little guy will keep for the next day or two while this intense heat is ripening all that fruit. That's all I've got for now. As always, this is your urban nerd with a goat herd telling you can grow where you're planted, even in the extreme heat. Hey everybody, so I just finished filming my video about the heat wave and all the things that are going on, but I just popped my head in to check on Guinevere before I walked out the door, And check it out, she's pulling fur. She's getting ready. Oh, there she was. So with her pulling her hair out and lining her nest now with it, means we could have babies later today, or we might have them in the next day or even 2 days. So I'm going to just be checking on her regularly and see what happens.